Hello everyone and welcome to this week's Xiangqi tutorial. I have been procrastinating for the past few months or even years when I should have done this short video tutorial a long time ago. This is the principles of Xiangqi Openings. There will be a few installments to this series, and to begin with I will be basing the points in the lecture on a book by Grandmaster Liu Dianzhong. Grandmaster Liu Dianzhong is a Chinese Xiangqi Grandmaster who lives in Tangshan, Hebei. There are many accolades and many achievements under his belt. Some of his most famous students include Grandmaster Li Lai, one of my personal favorites of all time. He was the head of Hebei Chess Academy, and I think he has retired. I have never had the chance to meet him in person, but he remains one of the most respected Xiangqi players in China today, and a person whom I really wish to meet if I ever get the chance to do so. He is the author of many Xiangqi books of very high quality. One of the most prominent would be the left riverbank horse variation of the screen horse defense. He wrote a treatise on the book and is believed to have dedicated his entire life to studying this opening system. One of his books is a series of books for the beginner, comprising of 5 volumes. I've used some of the material here and there over the years, and it remains one of the best series, most succinct and no-nonsense books that I've ever read, and I highly recommend it to any people who know Chinese. And this is the volume on openings. It's a small, short volume, but nonetheless very succinct and very useful and practical. Okay, in the book, the Grandmaster listed only 4 major principles. The first would be to mobilize your major pieces, which would be the chariot, the horse, the cannon, as fast as possible in Xiangqi, especially in the opening phase. The second would be to limit your opponent's lines of development. The third would be to maintain a good balance and coordination of the pieces over the board, so that pieces on both flanks or both sides of the board, Freddy pieces, will be able to look out for each other. And the last principle that the Grandmaster suggested was when learning the opening system in Xiangqi, opening phase in Xiangqi, would be to adopt a very practical approach to learn the more fashionable, the more commonly seen opening systems or variations, and try to be versatile and adapt them to your own style of play. Now, to mobilize your major pieces, the Grandmaster subdivided it into 3 further points. The first would be to obtain open lines for your chariot, and to try to create future lines of development for the horse, and to occupy important positions with the cannon. Now we shall go through the first point coming up next. Okay, this has been mentioned before. One thing that I want to point out is that on the Xiangqi board there are 90 intersections, so it's a relatively more open, more bigger space in the opening phase than compared to 64 squares in international chess. Hence, the result will be Xiangqi will be a faster paced, more fluid game. Now, it will be less concerned with pawn structure, which indeed there's almost no such thing as pawn structures in the opening phase in Xiangqi, and more often than not, pawns are often sacrificed to try to gain tempo. This portion will be mentioned in a video later on. Now, I have mentioned this because a lot of my viewers have backgrounds in international chess, and I think it is fundamental for such viewers to appreciate this very important difference in Xiangqi and international chess. Now, before I continue, what do you mean by obtain open lines for your chariot? First of all, we would have to try to understand what kind of roles or what kind of functions that the chariot can play in the opening phase. So now we all know that the chariot is the fastest, the most powerful and most mobile piece in Xiangqi. In the opening phase, the chariot can threaten the enemy horse and cannon, can capture enemy pawns or trade pawns on the riverbank to help to develop the horse, which is very often seen in several opening systems and variations. It can also be used to strengthen or fortify weak areas on the board which may be under attack by the enemy. It can also protect friendly pieces. And of course, the chariot, because of its mobility, is often one of the earliest threat on the enemy king. Hence, it cannot be overstated that the chariot is critical to success in the opening phase in Xiangqi. And indeed, the mobility of the chariot, as will be seen in examples later on, is one of the key criteria to determine whether your opening was satisfactory, a good opening, or a brilliant opening. So this was the example given in the book. As can be seen, according to the Grandmaster, this was an actual game that was played, and we can see that at this point in time, Red would be in deep trouble because his chariot would not have many good intersections to move, both chariots, whereas Black would have obtained open lines for the chariot, and the Black chariot would now be prepared to threaten the Red horse to gain material. And there will be good lines of development for the horse also, whereas if you compare the Black horse to the Red horse will be in deep trouble because basically it can only move in this small little area on the board. So we can see that Black could have the superior advantage. Now this was another example that was given in the book. As can be seen, both colors have the same material, and red it would be Red's turn to move. Now a simple analysis would show that with regards to the chariot, because both chariots have been developed as ranked chariots, so the key issue now would be to try to gain an open file. Now obviously the only file that would be open in this situation would be the Red's 4th file or Black's 6th file. The 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th file are all they are all pieces of material, be it friendly or enemy pieces, already available on those lines. So for Red to have a superior advantage, he should move R1 equals to 4, thereby disallowing the Black chariot to try to gain an open file. So Red would have the advantage after making R1 equals to 4 because the Black pieces would have trouble developing. And this example would demonstrate the importance of speed in the development of the chariot. So if you are able to command an important line or intersection with the chariot early on in the opening phase, chances are that you will gain some significant advantage. Now the functions of the horse in the opening. Now in Xiangqi, the horse is considered to be a middle range piece. For it to be a threat, it would have to cross the river and get close enough to the enemy palace before it can exert its influence. So in the opening phase, because there are still a lot of pieces on the board, the horse can be blocked and impeded, be it by friendly pieces or the enemy pieces. And one of the earliest impediments that the horse would face would be the pawn on the 3rd or 7th file if they were developed as proper horses. Hence it would be critical for these pawns to be moved so that the horse can be developed later on. And this is one key issue or one key tenet that you must remember when with regards to the horse in the opening phase. And when the horse is able to get to the riverbank, chances are that other pieces would be needed to protect it before the enemy tries to deter it away. And usually, if you can come up with tactical combinations involving the horse on the riverbank, chances are you will be able to secure some form of advantage. So in the opening phase, the criteria for the horse will be to an opening will be deemed to be a successful opening if there will be open lines for the horse to be developed later on in the game. Now finally, for the cannon. Now the cannon is a long-range piece. By virtue of the way it captures material and the way it moves, it can control files and ranks at the same time. However, cannon mounts will be needed, and these can be either friendly pieces or enemy pieces. And the cannon, as a rule of thumb, should only be moved if you were able to command an important line on the board. And it would be not wise, or it would be unwise to just to advance the cannon without any without being able to command a file or rank. Now in certain opening systems, the cannon is used to form a blockade, usually with the help of a chariot. This can be seen in the left cannon blockade with opening defense. And when this is done, it can limit enemy pieces and attempt discovered attacks on the enemy. And because the blockade has been formed, the space of the enemy has been compressed. This is a typing error, sorry. Your own friendly pieces will be allowed to advance. So some of these common opening systems that use the cannon in such a manner are mentioned here. Now if you have been following my videos with English commentaries over the years, these names should not be too unfamiliar. If not, never mind, you will know about it very soon enough. Now another example that was given in the book. This is an orthodox variation whereby red started with the central cannon and black countered with the sandwich horse defense. Now as can be seen, the chariots of both colors have been developed at this point in time, and the pawns in front of the relevant horses have also been advanced. The cannons of both colors have also been placed at important lines, whereby the pale corner cannon, the black's pale corner cannon, will now be commanding the 6th file, black's 6th file, and these two cannons are on the same file, which would negate the influence that either cannon might have on the same file. And as can be seen, there is good communication for both colors. So each of these formations are very versatile. Each player can adapt to the situation on the board and carry out whatever plans or goals or ideas that he might have. So as a result, because both players are deemed to have a good opening position, it will be an even situation on the board. So these were the examples that were given when mentioning the importance of trying to mobilize the chariot, horse and cannon early in the opening phase of Xiangqi. The next topic that we will be discussing will be how to limit, or the importance of limiting the development of your enemy's pieces. Now in Xiangqi, if you were able to develop your pieces very well, but if your opponent were able to do so, as shown in the previous example, the situation would be an even situation at best. Hence, to obtain an advantage going to the mid-game, it will be important for you to not only develop your pieces as best as possible, it will also be crucial for you to try to limit the development of the enemy pieces. Now in this example, which was given in the book, according to the Grandmaster, which was also an actual game that was played, will demonstrate this topic. So in this example, red started with the central cannon, and so far so good. All these are orthodox openings. This move is a little bit controversial because it will show that red will be prepared to attack from the central file, since neither of his pawns on the third or seventh file have been pushed. Now black will continue with p7 plus 1, and red will try to attack from the central file as planned. Now at this point in time, black would counter with c8 plus 4. Now this was a good move according to the Grandmaster, because not only did it limit the development of red's right chariot, it would also allow the black cannon to control the red's pawn rank. And because the pawn rank was controlled, red would encounter some form of difficulty or impediment when he tries to advance either of the horse to the central file. And at this point in time, red's attack would be thwarted, while black would have not only managed to mobilize important pieces, he would also have limited the attacking potential of the red pieces. Hence, this is what was meant by limiting the development of your enemy pieces. This was the example given in the book. There was another example that was given in the book to stress or get the point across. In this game, which the Grandmaster felt that was commonly seen in amateur play, the following mistakes or the following situations would occur. So, a central cannon, screen horse defense, file chariots, and c8 plus 9, and so far so good. Now black would choose to push his pawn forward to obtain a line of development for his horse, and also to impede or limit the development of the red piece. So at this point in time, because the pawn, black had already moved his pawn, red would try to push r2 plus 4 to the riverbank, hoping to trade pawns so that his horse would be developed. Now the idea or the purpose behind this move is okay, but this in fact would not be a good move, because if r2 plus 4 to move the chariot to riverbank were played, black could counter with c2 plus 2. Now this would be a good move on black's part, because black would now have to think twice about pushing the pawn forward, because if he did push the pawn forward, say with p3 plus 1, black could immediately attack or use the cannon to protect the horse, and use the horse as a cannon mount for the other cannon to attack the chariot. And because p3 plus 1 was played, the chariot would only have one intersection to move to, which would be r2 equals to 1, or it would be captured and the game would basically be decided. So at this point in time, black would choose to trade pawns, and as can be seen, at this point in time, black would have turned the tables and seized the initiative away from red. Black could be prepared to play r2 equals to 7, whereby he would have managed to concentrate about 4 major pieces, or attack red's relatively weak right flank. So this is another reason why it will be important for you to try to limit the movement of your enemy pieces, while at the same time try to mobilize your own major pieces as fast as possible. And it was also mentioned in the book that there were many ways for you to try to limit the development of the enemy pieces. Now there are many tactics and ways to do so, but for now it would be important to try to keep this idea in mind when you play the opening phase of Xiangqi. Now the next tenet that we must remember would be to try to maintain a good balanced formation with good coordination of the pieces. Now, what is meant by good coordination? That would mean that sorry, pieces which have crossed the river would be protected by pieces that have not crossed the river, or pieces on one flank would be able to help out with pieces on the other flank. Now, this is easier said than done, but this is one of the beauties of Xiangqi, and one must also take note of the space or availability of the pieces to move, so that the position would not be too cramped, or it would not also be too open, whereby it would be hard for pieces to try to communicate with each other. So only when the pieces are in sync can they become a more powerful attacking or defensive entity. Because the main idea in Xiangqi is to try to get 1 plus 1 to be greater than 2. Okay. An example was given in the book, which the Grandmaster said he had observed several beginners play. Now, these were the moves that were made: cross palace cannon, central cannon, so as can be seen, Red adopted a very unusual opening system, and he did not play according to the situation on the board, and as a result we can see that the palace was very cramped, even though it was seen that both of the cannons were not protecting this single file. The chariots were not developed, which would become a very big issue for Red, and the horses are not developed also. Now, both the pawns pushing both the 3rd and 7th pawns are called the double-headed stick pawns, would not be in favor for the black horses to join in the attack very soon. And it is obvious that in this opening situation by Red had also violated the very important tenet, the first tenet that we had mentioned just now, about trying to mobilize the major pieces as early as possible. So this is also an uncoordinated formation, because although the cannon was protecting the horse, if it moved, all protection would be lost, and there was practically no versatility that Red could have, while Black, on the other hand, had all the pieces well developed and are ready to go. So at this point in time, Red would have a significant advantage. To explain the idea or concept of good mobilization or good coordination of the pieces, this was another example that was given in the book. As can be seen in this situation, both chariots, all the chariots have been traded away, and Black is left with 2H1 cannon combination, while Red would have a 1H2 cannon combination left on the board. The number of pawns are the same, the number of defensive material pieces are also the same. However, it is very significant that Red has the obvious advantage, because the central cannon would not be able to do much at this point in time, since the black pawn was protected by the horse. The red horse would be the biggest issue or headache for Red at this point in time, because it would have a lot of trouble trying to get some development. And on the other hand, although this black horse was not protected, both horses were ready to attack and charge to the enemy camp to launch an attack. So Black would have the obvious advantage in this situation. Now in the book it was suggested that the player or the reader compare this situation with the situation that if the red horse were placed on this on the third file instead of the seventh file. Now Red would have a slightly better position as compared to the previous situation when the red horse was here. At least the red cannon was protecting the red horse and would not be able to play c8 equals to 7 or have some other options available. So this would be, although this would still be to black's advantage, red would be slightly better off. And in the book, the Grandmaster also suggested comparing this situation whereby red had pushed his pawn but black had not pushed his pawn. So in this situation, red would be considered to have the perhaps a slight advantage, because now the horse were able to move and the cannon was prepared to target the black horse in this situation, and the black horse would not have many places to move. So if you were to compare these three situations, the first one being this position, and the second one being this position, with the final third position of this situation, we can see that although there was only a slight significant change or the alteration of the movement of the pieces, black's pressure or the advantage that black would have would be completely different in some of the situations. So this is what the Grandmaster meant, that when playing the Xiangqi opening, you should try to coordinate your pieces as best as possible and to try to maintain a good balanced formation for both attack and defense. Now, last but not least would be was the advice that was given by the Grandmaster. Xiangqi, especially in the opening phase, there are too many possibilities for a mere mortal to comprehend or master. But the idea would be to try to learn the principles of the tenets of Xiangqi openings and apply them to your game. And as mentioned earlier, all previous variations but about variations that were popular in their time. So if you're able to be creative, or you understand the position of the pieces very well, you have a good understanding of the situation, you can always adapt and change the way your opening is played to improve your game. So these are some of the 4 basic tenets that were given by the Grandmaster in his book.